Welcome to my Raspberry Pi project presentation. My name is Mitchell Crowley. I created the web server and RAID array. So business case, I want to create a cost-effective web server to host a website and want to make sure the web server is redundant and fault tolerant. To do this, I created a web server and WordPress website with my Raspberry Pi as a host and stored it on a RAID array so that it was redundant and fault tolerant. Connection to Raspberry Pi architecture and content covered in C90 176. The first is the concept of a LAN, because the web or local area network, because to access the website I created, you had to be on the CIT Pi network. Then we also talked about peripherals in class. So for this project, the two USB flash drives used acted as storage peripherals for the Raspberry Pi. And then along with that, the USB controllers in the Raspberry Pi that handle communication between the CPU and flash drives connect to the input-output controllers and peripheral controllers that we talked about in class. We also discussed file systems, and in this project I had to access different directories and the files inside of them, add files, delete, remove files, and update the contents of files. We also discussed RAID arrays in class, so this project deepened my understanding of that, and a level 1 array with mirroring, where the same exact blocks of data are contained in both drives, so that if one fails, it's okay because the data is still preserved in the other drive. Then we discussed different protocols in class, and for this project, HTTP is a protocol that was used when the user types in the URL for the website, and then an HTTP request is sent through port 80 to the web server on my Raspberry Pi, and then the web server sends back the correct web page to the web browser. And then we also talked about file permissions in class, and for this project I had to change who owns a file and then change the permissions of the file, whether it's read, write, or execute permissions. And then procedures followed. I followed the create a RAID volume on Raspberry Pi tutorial by Steve Wright and the build a LAMP web server with WordPress by Raspberry Pi Foundation tutorial. So for the RAID array, I used two 64 gigabyte flash drives, and then on the picture on the right you can see the flash drives as SDA and SDB. And then first I had to create a new partition in both of the drives for the array, and then I installed MDADM, which is the RAID software I used for this project. Then I created my array with my two devices, the level of mirroring, and then I created a mount point for my array and formatted it as type ext4. Then I mounted my array on the mount point I created, and then I formatted it so that it would mount on boot. Then for the web server, the tutorial used Apache 2 as its web server, so I installed that, and you can see the default web page. And then I installed PHP as my preprocessor. Then I had to, when you first install Apache, it gives you the default HTML file, but I had to update that with the new PHP file. So I did that. You can see the new PHP file in the background. And then I installed MariaDB Server, which is a database engine, and the PHP and MySQL packages. Once I did that, I removed all the files from the var www HTML directory for Apache and downloaded WordPress with the wget command and moved all the files from WordPress into the Apache directory, and then changed the ownership to Apache again. And then I installed MySQL and used it to create the WordPress database and grant all privileges on WordPress to the root user. And then once I did that, I just had to do some final configuration and setup. So I picked my language as English, filled out this information, set my site title, my username, password, and email, and then my website was created. I just needed to move it on to my array. So I did that. I added WordPress to my mount point and then changed permissions to give me full read, write, and execute permissions. And that was the end of the procedure. And then results, here you can see that I created my array. You can see the date it was created on, the RAID level, RAID 1, RAID devices 2, total devices 2. And then you can see before I added WordPress, the contents of it are just lost and found. But after I added WordPress, you can see the contents are lost and found and WordPress. And then this is the default admin page that I logged into, which allows you to make changes, add new pages, comments, appearances, stuff like that. And then on the left is me accessing the website from my Raspberry Pi. And on the right, I access the website from my computer, showing that you're able to access the website from different devices as long as they are on the CIT Pi network. And then I was able to change things, like I said, like on the left, I changed the style to the rust color, and then I added a new page with the post, this is a new page. And then when I accessed the website again, it had the updated style and new page up top next to sample page. And when you click on the new page link, it brings you to the new page. And then my troubleshooting, when the tutorial said to access the website by going to https dash localhost, but that when it wasn't working, it would give me this error, the site can't be reached. So I had to go to http localhost, and that worked for me. And then when I first tried to create my RAID array, it would say that the device or resource busy, the two drives, it would say they were busy. So I had to use the umount command on both of them to unmount them. And then after that, it would work. And I was able to create the array. And then also, after I made changes to the Apache web server, I had to restart it so for the changes to take effect. But I would get this error that it failed with process exited with error code. And so I followed what it said. I entered the systemctl status apache2.service command, and then it brought me to this page on the right, and I read through the messages, and it said I had a syntax error in this Apache2 file, so I had to open that up, and it just turns out I was missing this / in front of directory. So once I added that, it restarted just fine. And then a lot of my other errors just came from spelling things wrong, entering commands wrong, not having a space where I need it, or misspelling things. Like on this example on the right, on the bottom, I tried said dash RADI0 when it should be RAID 0, like it is on the bottom. So that was just most of my errors inputting things wrong. And then also, when I was first trying to edit the PHP and the default HTML file inside of the var www HTML directory, I didn't actually realize that I was supposed to be in the directory when I was making those changes. So it would say that the HTML file didn't exist because I wasn't accessing it from inside the directory. And then the PHP file wasn't taking effect because it wasn't inside the Apache directory. So once I figured that out, it worked fine. Then on the right, you can see it changed from the default web page to the new PHP web page with hello world and the date. And then lessons learned. Overall, I would just say to start earlier on the project, not wait so late so that I wouldn't feel so rushed and under so much pressure. And I would have more time to troubleshoot and go deeper into creating my website and developing my website more. But overall, it was a good project. I learned about RAID arrays and creating a web server with Apache and creating a website. So I think it was a successful project overall. Thank you for listening to my presentation.